Welcome to Sobremesa Chat. Today is episode 4 of this year, talking about um, healthy relationships. Healthy
Hmm.
relationships. Last week we chatted about some of the kind of the cultural norms that go into dating, and kind of the different things that can come up. And so today we're diving into what a healthy relationship, healthy romance looks like, and providing some practical skills that you can take um, today back to your relationship. My name is Hilda McClure. I'm CEO of Cannenta Center, and I'm joined by Elizabeth Palafox. So I'll let her introduce herself, but she'll be my co-host today.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Palafox. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the lead clinician at the Cannenta office here in San Antonio. And I'm excited to continue talking about this topic around relationships, romance, and healthy communication.
Mhm. Absolutely. Let's start. We talked a little bit about our partners last time, and maybe we can like open with some vulnerability. Are you okay with
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
Maybe tell us a little bit about your partner, how you guys met, and if you feel free sharing, like maybe things that you feel like you do really well in your relationship, and maybe some pain points. And I'll do the same after you.
Perfect. That's fun. Okay, some tea time.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't
Um,
warn you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So my fiance's name is Alfred. We've been together coming up on 7 years in June. We'll have been together for 7 years. We originally met in 2018 when my college best friend and his childhood best friend were getting married. And so they invited us both to be part of their party, like wedding party. And so we met the day, like the rehearsal dinner and the wedding. And I mean, we had fun, we danced, we talked or whatever, but we lived in different cities, so it didn't really amount to anything. Then a year later, we reconnected at that same like couple friend. They had a birthday party for the husband, and we reconnected there. And from there, we've kind of been inseparable. And we are planning to get married November of this year. So very exciting. Everybody's like, finally, you know. But everybody's really excited. We're excited. And yeah, we're going through all the preparation. And I think the topic today was just also really relevant to, we're doing the pre-wedding talks like with the church and making decisions and around wedding planning, but how that can reflect, longer term decisions. So yeah, as far as strengths that I would say, um, like the relationship has. We're always laughing. There's a lot of humor. I think sometimes we're like one of us needs to take things seriously because we're always just two big kids together. So there's a lot of fun, a lot of humor. We're both very family oriented. So um, very close to our families. Which at times it's like, how do we blend the two families if we're both so close to our family? But it's a good thing. Um, I think we're both very, um, we balance okay, this is the time to have fun, have whimsy, but then we're both also more introverted. And so we can read each other when, like, okay, maybe let's have some quiet time or let's just have um, time outdoors and disconnect from things. I mean, I think just in our friendships too, we're pretty loyal. And with there's loyalty and just open mind about things. We're not afraid to bring up, if something's bothering us, that's never a conversation that's going to be turned away. And I think like you said, pain points was
Mhm.
the term you used. Again, just a little bit of differences in our background where his parents have been married for X amount of time and my parents were divorced. And I think just even him and I being together for like 7 years, um, uh, there's still on my end certain things that can trigger me or that can make me um like what is it called? Like withhold certain things for fear of like I don't want to do what they did, or I don't want to come off in the same way this parent came off. And I think just some of those wounds can still pop up. Um, but ultimately, like we're able to work through that. I think we're both people pleasers. So at times, again, it sometimes takes one of us to initiate, like, okay, let me be more assertive in this and say this is what's gonna go. Um, and just kind of learning how we're still growing up and still learning things about just ourselves individually. And so sometimes we just that could be vocalized a little bit more, like being more assertive in our individual needs and needs as a couple.
No, it's great. Thank you so much for sharing that so vulnerably. And it's really cute to see how you light up when you talk about him. And I love love. I really do. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think especially in our culture, where la ropa sucia se lava en casa, and
Yeah.
it can be really hard to
Mm-hmm.
just even if you're not like giving all the tea, right? Like to share that openly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
What about you?
yeah, so my husband and I, Anthony, we met at church, and one of the things we always talk about, or I talk about, is that he was like trying really hard to date me, and I was like, no, bro, I'm not doing that. And part of I'm like trying to think if I should say this part out loud, but yeah, there was just like some um like complications with like everyone was in love with him, and I was like, I'm not getting involved in all that.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
um but
I'm
anyway,
not
it
playing
worked
the
out.
game.
It worked out. So
It
met at
worked out.
church, and we're actually this month it'll be 10 years since he first asked me out. And
Aw.
he asked me out on Valentine's Day, and I'm like pretty anti. I do love love, but I do not like Valentine's Day. So he was like, "Hey, do you want to grab lunch sometime, or do you want to grab lunch today?" It was after church, and I was like, "No, because it's Valentine's Day. We can grab lunch tomorrow." And so we did. We grabbed lunch the next day. So February 15th is the
Aw,
day.
that's
So
so cute.
yeah. He says that he knew like right away after that lunch. I did not know. It's más, like I didn't even know we were dating, like what he calls us dating. Like we celebrate
Mm.
10 years now, but like the first couple months, like I wasn't even sure.
What was happening?
Yeah, that we were dating. He's like telling all his friends he met a girl, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just hanging out with this dude.
Chill, pretty
Yeah.
casual.
Yeah. And so then we will have been married 8 years in March. And
Wow.
yeah.
So
It's
exciting.
so wild, and you maybe feel this way too, to be with someone that long.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
that I'm like, whoa, we've been together for a decade of my life, and that I'm
Hmm.
not tired of you and I still think you're my best friend. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so
Hmm.
cool. I think our strengths, really similar to y'all. We love to laugh. We love to have a good time. Um, yeah, I love when I love trying to make him laugh because I'm always trying to convince him that I'm really funny. He's like, you're not that funny. And I'm like, I'm really funny. And so we love to have a good time. I think we also really enjoy kind of a slower pace. Like we're okay with not doing much. Like,
Hmm.
like we're talking about this weekend, and he's February's heart month. He works at a cardiology hospital. So it's like a
Hmm.
very busy. So like Sunday we're gonna do nothing. Like we're just gonna and like we
Yeah.
feel really okay with just like being with each other in that kind of way. I also think that we're a really good team. Like if you guys, if I can't tell you how many weddings we've been at together that we end up like serving the cake, or like, like we just
Being
kind of go
involved
to,
in some way.
yeah, yeah. And I think we make a really good team. Like um, we can kind of get stuff done. Um, and so that's really fun for us. I also really appreciate, we both are very service minded. And so we are very passionate about the things that God has put on our heart. And I think another one of our strengths is that we give each other enough space to do those things without it necessarily threatening the relationship. I don't think it was always like that, but I think over the time we've grown stronger in that respect.
Mm, mm,
Um, as far as pain points, I think that we both can be a little bit moody. And so when we get a little bit
mhm,
moody, we'll like snap at each other. And we're
mhm,
not always great
mhm,
at communicating, like, hey, emotionally, this is where I'm at. And then it'll
mhm,
just
mhm.
like snap.
Yeah,
I think over time we've gotten a lot better at just like apologizing really quickly about it or like catching it.
yeah.
But that wasn't always the case. I
Mhm,
think another pain point. Um, also is because we are both really service minded, we can kind of get stuck, right? Like we're like, I'm
mhm.
like, well, this is what I'm doing right now, and this is what I'm who I'm serving, whatever. And I think we can get stuck in terms of like future planning for us as a couple, like
Right.
um, because it can be so focused outwardly.
Mhm,
So there's like
mhm,
pros and cons to that. I also want to honor that like the last, he and I, the last um like a year and a half, like about maybe like 2 years now, we went through a really, really hard time in our marriage. Like just
mhm,
it was it was rough.
mhm.
Um and so it gave us a lot of opportunity to work on a lot of stuff. And I think that getting kind of confronted with a reality that might be very different than the one we are in really
Yeah.
forced us to like figure it out really quick.
Mhm.
Um, because that was not like the end we wanted.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think that has been so, not to say that there isn't conflict, there still is, but I think that experience was just so like eye-opening that there's a part of us that's like, we're like really quick to apologize. We're really quick to talk about stuff because we're just like, we can't, there's a part, at least for me, there's a part of me that's like, we cannot afford
Mhm.
to kind of go back to that.
Yeah.
And, we both really feel like God has called us into union. God has called us to like serve. And like we have to be able to do that. And so, what do we need to do around some of these pain points to make sure that
Mhm.
there are like little cuts that we can put some bandages on and not like a gashing wound?
Right.
Um, and so I feel really thankful in saying that because being able to share that because there was like a hot minute, even just like more
Mhm.
recently, that we were just like,
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
this is no
Yeah.
bueno. So, but I love him. I talk about him all the time because he really is my best friend, and I'm really
Yeah.
glad to have him. And I wonder if like for you, it feels similar. Like my family's not here. So I have my brother here, but my parents aren't here. And his family still lives like 45 minutes from us. And so there's like a very real reality that really is just the two of us.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I wonder if you guys, because right, like your family's not, you're from Austin.
Yeah. It's and I think that's where it goes to us being like family oriented and just
Mhm.
balancing because for me or for us I live about like a little over an hour away from my family and so I try to go at least like one weekend a month to check in. But his family lives like 10 minutes up the road. And so like m many Sundays it's like family barbecue at his house or um there's a lot more opportunity to interact with his family than with mine. So for me at first was more so like guilt
Mm,
around and then I know we'll like talk about just this more into the episode of I for my family and the culture within my family, we're Mexican, it was still a lot the idea of you live with your family until you get married, and then, you're still very close to your family.
mhm,
And that just wasn't what felt right for me. And I did want to go ahead and begin building a life and move to San Antonio. But I think just kind of navigating that of just because I am also growing in relationship with this family doesn't mean I'm abandoning my family. And then having those conversations with him too, because he's never lived, outside of San Antonio. I went to college in College Station, and there was times where I lived in my own apartment, even in Austin. So I had more of a sense of what does that feel like? Versus he's always been super close physically and emotionally to
Mhm.
his family. So, and we've had conversations about the future of potentially moving back one day, and what that might be like for him. And um, so it's sometimes similar in that because he's also he's like, no, I'm open to moving. I'm open to taking on like a new chapter in my life, but um it sometimes does have some influence around like what our family is saying saying or doing. And
Mhm.
I think that goes back to our people pleasing, just learning to be more assertive with those boundaries to protect the relationship
Mhm.
too.
Yeah. That's so good. There's a lot I can relate to, like even within our relationship, because even though it is like this now, it wasn't always like this. And so there's like, I moved. I like grew up in Puerto Rico. I moved here.
Hmm.
And so there's like a lot of excitement or adventure for me
Hmm.
around like
Hmm.
moving and like trying to figure it out. But my husband has lived close to his family his whole life.
Yeah.
Like when I met him, he was living at his parents' house.
Hmm.
Um, so even when we first got married and moved, we moved from Grand Prairie, which is like South Dallas or South DFW, up to Uptown Dallas, like this proper
Hmm.
Dallas proper. And that
Hmm.
was like 45 minutes. And there was like a lot of conversation about that because it was so far from his family.
Yeah.
And we made it work. It was it. But at the time, it just felt like such a,
Really big.
yeah. So there's like so
Hmm.
much I can relate to in
I
that.
think that's such a Latino thing too, because I know
Mhm.
it's like, oh, 45 minutes, an hour, like that's so far. And then I have like friends who are, they're white and they're like, oh yeah, I'll visit my family up in like um Iowa or like wherever. They're like across the country and they see them once a year and that's totally fine. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. What's that like? Yeah, yeah. It's so true. It's so true. I think I miss some. I mean, this is like a podcast for another day, but I miss some of that. Like being so close to my family in that kind of way because it's
Yeah.
not. It's not. I have my
Hmm.
brother and we try to get together pretty regularly, but
Hmm.
yeah, I miss kind of that. And it's like, what's that like to just visit them twice a year and be
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that rolls us right into like our conversation. So I think like maybe we can start with talking about before we get into like really like practical skills, where we learn like healthy relationships, um, and maybe incorporating why love alone isn't enough.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and I'm curious to hear kind of your point of view. My parents have been married for 30 years, so I know like having divorced parents does impact the way you view relationship. And so maybe I'll put you on the spot, but just talking a little bit about like where you learned healthy relationship or healthy romance, and we can go there from
Hmm.
there.
Yeah. So, so it didn't start, I would say initially, um, there weren't a lot of examples of that growing up. I think there was a lot of, I associated for a while relationships with conflict, with, constant disagreements and an inability to regulate emotions. I also will offer that my parents were very, very young when they had me, when they,
Mhm.
got together. And so I'm a little bit older than they were when they split up. And just thinking about like, wow, they were young, they were
Babies.
babies. And that's helped heal a lot of that. But there there was just very tumultuous. When they did end up splitting up, it was just um no contact with one another. It was really just challenging to see how can things still work beyond like the relationship ending, especially when there's kids involved. And
Mhm.
um so yeah, through through my initial first years, I did not really see any, and even outside of that, aunts, uncles, it wasn't something I was like, oh, this is what I'm aspiring to. I think most of it was just what I saw in the movies, what I saw
Yeah.
in books. I think I had a couple friends who had parents who seemed to like each other and seemed to get along and laugh. Um, but I would say it wasn't until my mom met my stepdad where I recognized, oh, like there's actually love that can look different. They met through church and they yeah, they both went through their own personal growth process, and I think that's also something just worth noting, like that relationship you continue cultivating with yourself,
Mhm.
and really being clear on your values and your value system, to find somebody who will connect with that, because they are just at their church, they're like the it couple. But they're humble about it. They're not perfect, but there's a lot of laughter, a lot of joy, but a lot of um, selflessness. There's a lot of mutual respect, boundaries with other people. They both have big, loving families, and so boundaries. Um, Him coming in with a family that already had two kids who were teenagers at the time, and being patient and kind and accepting. And so I've just seen their love continue to be cultivated and continue to grow stronger. And that's been really one of the biggest examples of a healthy relationship, that I've seen. And then as my friends have gotten married as well, I've seen them, and that's cool because it's like a peer, it's like a peer.
Mhm.
How are you navigating those wounds that you had growing up? And now you're trusting someone to like do this with you and move forward and have your own family. And um, so just kind of through that lens of my mom and my stepdad, and then some of my close trusted friends who I've seen go through that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think like right, so many of us learn about healthy relationships and love through our parents, whether they're there or not there, even kind of the opposite side of it too. And I just love that story of reconciliation and redemption. And I think like love, at its core can be, it's like such a flexible material, right? Like even
Mhm.
in worse circumstances, love can really come in and like break things, right? Like break off things and redeem things. And so I love that so much. And I think that for many
Mhm.
of us, that's where we learn from our parents, from our tias, from our grandparents. Um, and then based on those experiences, we kind of develop what we think might be health.
Yeah.
Um, I think the one missing thing about, unless, right, like when you're 12, you don't know to ask the hard questions, like to ask how you handle conflict. And so as an adult, like even having peers, or like Anthony and I had several like couples that were just very willing to invest in us, especially when we
Mm.
were like young, like newly married. And we still have couples that are willing to do that now. Like even just this weekend, we're going to have dinner with one of them, and now we can like ask the questions around like,
Mhm.
hey, we really admire this. Like, how do you make that work? Like, tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that when we set the intention of being like, hey, I really want to do this well, we try to look for opportunities
Mhm.
to do that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, And so I think like when we kind of look at what is a healthy relationship, I think that can look different from person to person, but I do think that there are some maybe like big buckets we could talk about around what like a healthy relationship looks like.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and so I'm gonna maybe name a few and then maybe you can name a few. But I think like like big, big picture healthy can looks like consistency, right? Like be like your partner being consistently who they are. that you eat bad or good, right? Like, but that I know, like exactly what's going to happen. I know exactly how they're going to show up, and that there isn't like this volatileness to their way they show up in the relationship that I'm not
Hmm.
really sure. I also think like a healthy relationship has really good boundaries and respect for boundaries, like with one another, with the outside world. Um, and like they know how to like keep it. And so I, right, and knowing like where boundaries need to be flexible because you're in a relationship versus a
Hmm.
boundary that keeps your partner away from you, right? So just
Hmm.
being able to like
Hmm.
have some knowledge around boundaries, how they work, and what is healthy and helpful for, or helpful, let me say helpful for a relationship and what isn't, right?
Hmm.
Like when your
Hmm.
partner tells you like, hey, I'm going to play video games for 3 hours on Friday, and your partner's like, yeah, that's not going to work because like I want to hang out, right? Like that might be one that we have to renegotiate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
knowing that there will be some things that have to be renegotiated. Anything else you would add to that that are just like healthy romance things we're looking for?
I think like where you're saying, jumping off of boundaries, self-awareness, and understanding your own areas for just improvement, but also your strengths. And I, s- again, I say it as I think within the first 6 months of like dating, I was in grad school and I had offered do the attachment style quiz with me
Listen, okay, hold on,
6 months in.
I gotta pause that for just 1 minute. Tell me you're a therapist without telling me you're a therapist. You make your partner take some sort of personality quiz. Attachment style, Myers-Briggs,
Love
Enneagram,
language.
Lovely. Listen, we did it all. I like come because I'm we met in grad school too. So I'm like coming back
Oh,
and I'm like, I need you to take this, I
the
need you to
date.
take this.
Today's
Yeah.
date is this test.
Yeah. And then we're going to reflect together around how this is
One
going
by
to.
one
That's
with
right.
examples.
That's right. Sorry, I had to pause you because I'm like, yes, that's the only way.
Oh my gosh. I think it's also a good time that they go along with it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so which no surprise to me, but it was more so to know what his was. But for me it was, anxious attachment. So like leaning more insecure and then his was a secure attachment. Like,
Dang you.
of course, I'm just kidding. But for me, at times the self-awareness I need to do is around strengths I have and viewing myself as a person with my own qualities, my own resources, assets, things that I'm not lacking because I don't have someone. It's like, okay, I'm enough as I am. So self-awareness on my own strengths, but also again areas for improvement. Um, so that you're not putting anything unnecessarily on that person. Not that they don't want to support you or cheer you on or encourage you, or reassure you, but that's not their complete job to resolve that for you. And so I think self-awareness, that's just an example. I know there's other areas where self-awareness can be crucial. Um, but I would say that that's a good component of a healthy relationship.
And I think to add to that self-awareness piece is like knowing, like both of y'all knowing how my actions impact my
Right.
partner. That,
Hmm.
and I can be, it's not necessarily like people pleasing, but knowing that like if I have to have a hard conversation with my husband, that like I'm not going to go in yelling because that's probably not going to,
Hmm.
right, like just like that self-awareness to say like just because this
Hmm.
has been always been my pattern or this is what I watched, because I care about my partner, I'm going to be conscious of how I show up,
Hmm.
um so that we can get the best outcome for the
Yeah.
relationship, not just
Hmm.
for me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Um, and I think a big thing, another like kind of green flag to is like communicate, like learning how to, not necessarily like you always have to communicate well, but like you're invested in continually learning how to communicate well.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
I think that if you really can like invest into that, you get to like a lot of the other issues become non-issues
Hmm. Hmm.
because you're so invested in making sure that you hear your partner, you're communicating clearly, you're asking the right questions. Um,
I would say yes, that's really important because if you are, and I know there's relationships that are longer and marriages that
mhm,
have been longer than mine, but from what I have experienced so far, there is a part of, oh, they know what I'm thinking. Like they know me enough that they know what bothers me or what's coming up for me. And they know. And so I don't have to communicate that. But then that's where so many things fall through the cracks because I missed that or they missed that. And now we're both confused and upset because that communication didn't happen.
yeah, yeah. And so maybe we can like, with that being said, we can roll into our very first like skill or
Mhm.
takeaway.
Mhm.
And maybe I'll introduce it and then you can explain it better than I can. But one of the big keys, especially when we're talking about hard things, is using what we call I language. And so instead of saying things like, you never listen to me, I say, hey, I feel really unheard. Can you talk to us some more about that?
Yeah. So the I language is really for any conflict resolution, but specifically in marriages, well, relationships, marriages, families. Um, the moment somebody tells me, right, you did this thing wrong, or you should have done this wrong, right? My brain's going to interpret that as I'm a bad person. And when I think I'm being perceived as a bad person, I'm going to be defensive and try to argue with, I'm not a bad person because of this. And you're a bad person for thinking I'm a bad person, right? So it becomes this defensive, I'm defensive, you're defensive, because blame was put somewhere. And that's not always the most productive thing. So, I language helps explain why something harmed you or hurt you, or why something was just was not the best way to go about saying or doing something. And so, like Hilda said, um, it's that you never listen to me. I feel unheard when I have to repeat myself. Um, I think another one is I need. So sometimes we again assume the person knows what we want. It's that you never um you never like compliment me, for example. And you just don't care about me because you never compliment me versus I need to be reminded that I'm still cared for, I'm still desired, I'm still valued. And it helps me when I hear just compliments, when I get compliments, that helps me feel connected. And just the tone of that can feel so different. And that person's not thinking about how to defend themselves. You're not thinking about how to defend yourself. It's how can I help my partner have that need met? Um, Even if you want to give feedback or maybe your partner's doing something you're concerned about, again, rather than you're you should know better, right? Like you're better, you're better than that. What you're doing is, dumb, bad, whatever. Make it more observational can help it be more like neutral. So rather than again, it's that you've been like the video games thing. It's that all you do is play video games and you've forgotten about this task and you're late on this, right? I'm noticing there's a little bit more time on online or on the games and do you need like is there something that's you need support with and getting these other things done, do you think we could give that some time, 30 minutes today, and just making it more collaborative versus you're doing this wrong, fix it, by
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So I
Mm-hmm.
think just I language helps that power dynamic, right? From bad guy and good guy to teammates, right? We're
Yeah.
teammates in this. And you're just also taking responsibility for your own feelings instead of putting it on them.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that one of the easy ways that you can start practicing that, especially, right, like we don't start practicing a communication skill in the middle of conflict because you're not
Mm-hmm.
well versed in it enough
Mm-hmm.
for that fight or flight brain to really like be like, I'm going to use my eye language. Right. But it can be like just like in general conversation, like maybe you do you come home and you guys do like a check-in like after work, like how was, we typically ask how was your day? And instead of you going to like, well, so and so did this, you start with like, yeah, I felt like
Mm-hmm.
this was disregarded
Mm-hmm.
or this.
Mm-hmm.
And then no, same thing with the noticing, like, like your partner's telling you a story and you're like, wow, I'm really noticing how that's impacting you. I'm really noticing
Right.
how sad that seems to make you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we practice in contexts that are not like heightened emotions.
Right, because especially, be like, why are you talking to me like that? What
Mhm,
language are you using? Yes,
mhm.
I like that idea of slowly introducing this as part of the new vocabulary. And that when it does have to do with your relationship, it doesn't catch anybody off guard. It's not hard to practice, it's more familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another good communication skill can be that, like, not all communication has to be serious.
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
you can add, like, playfulness is a huge tool um, that can help, like, lessen conflict, can help, like, work through a lot of stuff. I think I told you, shared in the last podcast, where I remember seeing on Reddit where, like, if her husband did something that upset her, she'll be like, yeah, my boyfriend never does that. There's like no boyfriend. You know what I mean? Like my boyfriend never, like my boyfriend always cleans up the dishes. Right. And so it was like kind of their way of like communicating that something had to be done without it being
Hmm.
like a big conversation. There was another lady that what would she would do would be like, yeah, Sam's husband, he like never he never washes the dishes. And then she'll go like, I'm so glad you're not like that. But the dishes aren't washed. You know what I mean? Like the dishes aren't washed, but like that was just kind of the way to discuss like the need without it being like a
Let's
whole
sit
thing.
down and talk
Yeah.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah. So I
that's
think
fun.
playfulness can be really helpful
Hmm.
and laughter is really great for helping kind of like bring the prefrontal back on.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so that's one of my favorites, and that's one of our favorites to use in our relationship is that we do have to have hard conversations sometimes, but when we can, like we try to make it really playful,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
helps.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Um,
Go ahead.
I would say with like it not being serious or it not being like fully in depth too. So even things like the timeout,
Mhm,
where you can have a code or a phrase
mhm,
or a gesture that tells your partner my brain's not functioning because my emotions are a little bit heightened. So I don't necessarily want to go into something. Give me like 15 minutes to take a breather, go for a walk with the understanding we're gonna come back and we're
mhm,
still like on the same page, right? Like I trust you, you trust me. I just need to step away. So and that could be like a fun phrase. That could be just something again intimate between you two, just like time out, like I know what this
mhm.
means. Um, just something to cue to that person. And that way nobody's trying to fix it right away. Nobody's trying to escalate it. It's just yeah, de-escalating and giving some space can also be helpful
Yeah.
in that there's not a long conversation being had.
Absolutely. And I think like the key thing to that is so for example, there will be one partner that is like, yeah, I need some space to think about this. And there's another partner that is like, I need to talk about this right now. And like, I just can't wait. Regardless of what side of that coin you kind of live on, the in any kind of communication, in any kind of conflict, that self-regulation piece is so important. So even if you feel anxious about having the conversation, you need to be able to self-regulate.
Hmm.
So if they're needing a walk, you probably also need a walk.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, And I also think that taking breaks doesn't always have to be like separate. It can also be together where like, hey, like let's help each other like co-regulate. And so like maybe we'll just like watch some funny videos and take a break that way, and then we'll come back to the hard conversation.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, One of the things my husband and I really love to do is like if we're having really hard conversations, we love to hold hands.
Oh.
Because it helps keep us connected and that
Hmm.
co-regulate. It's like really hard for me to say mean things when I'm holding my husband's hand. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, and so it
Hmm.
kind of creates um, and so like even if we have to take a break, we can kind of just still be with one another in that kind of way
Hmm.
without it necessarily like sometimes we do just need to walk away and that's fine. I think that's just one way we've kind of
To
managed it.
ground yourself. That's
Hmm.
sweet. I like that. For us, I guess going back with playfulness is we'll use the phrase, okay, let's talk turkey. Let's talk turkey. And it's just like a silly phrase, but we know that means it's going to be serious enough that we're going to address something that happened or like an upcoming decision that needs to be made. And the understanding we probably both want the same thing. It's just how do we find that together? But that's like our phrase that
I love it.
helps us, it disarms us a little bit and we can
Yeah,
go into it
yeah,
instead
absolutely.
of, hey, I need to talk.
Yeah. Yeah. We one of the rules that we have is that if we, so let's say something happens and I'm like, hey, I really do need to talk. We always like name what we need to talk about.
Hmm.
Like, so it's like, this happened a couple months ago. My husband was like, hey, we need to talk tonight. And I was like, spiraling and like he hates me, he's going to leave me, like my all my wounds are be showing like right like he's gonna abandon me, all this stuff. And then we I like call him right after sessions and I'm like, what is going on? He's like, oh, I just like needed help picking up dinner or something like that. Like it was just like you don't understand the amount of anxiety I was in.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I know. So if we do have to talk about something and we want to communicate that earlier in the day so that we're not like just walking in like into something, we'll just say like, hey,
Mhm.
I need to talk about and this is what we need to talk about. Um, and so just so you know. So we just try to give each other like not leave each other hanging because right,
Yeah.
we our
Yeah.
brains tell a lot of stories
Yeah.
around
Hmm.
conflict that
Hmm.
probably are not true.
Yeah. Um, I'll add the culturally, right? And I know it can look different across the board, but for me, um, growing up, if, for example, like my mom hurt my feelings or feelings were hurt, there was not a conversation necessarily. It was like, okay, are you hungry? Like the food
Yeah,
is ready, right? I'm gonna go to the store. Do you want to go with me? It's almost like we're gonna move past what just happened and not really address it and we're gonna continue on. Um, and so for a long time, that's, it was like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. It's moved on. Let me continue on. But that's gonna stay with you and it's just gonna build and it's gonna build, it's gonna build. So that's also why communicating and releasing that is just healthier. It feels lighter, in your body.
absolutely. Absolutely. You just reminded me of something else. Y se me escapó. It was along that same. Oh my gosh, I'll have to come back to it.
Okay.
Um, I just, it just, oh my gosh, what was it?
Was it about like how you like family apologized or talked about things or moving
Yeah,
on?
they sweep it. You're saying that your mom like you'll sweep it under the rug. Ay, se me olvidó. If it comes
Okay.
to me, I'll share it. But I was like, yes. But yeah, yeah, I think talking like we can't sweep things under the rug. I remembered. I remembered.
Okay. Yay.
Okay. Um, okay, so I this is why I thought about it while you were talking about it. Your mom, right? Like when she after the conflict, she's like making what Gottman calls bids for connection.
Ah,
right? Like
yes.
that's so like after there's like a rupture, is sometimes what it's called, or disconnection, we'll make bids for connection. What
Mm-hmm.
Gottman talks about, so John Gottman and Julie Gottman, they're kind of relationship experts, and they can, their whole like all their material is really good and I enjoy it, but their like claim to fame is like within like a 4 minute conversation, they can tell if a couple's going to make it or not. Um, with
Wow.
like 93% accuracy, something like that. I don't know if they put that on their website anymore, but they used to. But he talks about that the ratio to kind of keep a relationship going is a 7-to-1 ratio of bids of connection. So bids of connection are any time that I am trying to, excuse me, connect with my partner. And we do this 1,000 different ways. So this is like when I send, nothing makes me more mad. I don't do this anymore because I'm not on Instagram, at least like not personally. Is like if I send my husband reels and he doesn't watch them. That makes me
Mm.
so angry. I understand it's
Mhm.
irrational, but that's like a bid for connection, right? Like
Yeah.
I want to hear about how funny you thought those videos were. And if I send you
Yeah.
something more serious, I want to be able for us to talk about it. And so that's a bid for connection. Or like this morning I actually called my husband just cause this, and he works 6 to 2. And he's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Nothing. I just want to hear your voice and chat." Those are all bids for connection. And so we do that in all kinds of ways. Like, we're sharing our day, we're sharing um just whatever, like just touch
Yeah, for my
points.
partner, it's like when he's like, "Do you want to try like my food? Like,
Yeah.
I ordered this. It's really good. Do you want to try some?" And I'm like, "No." And it's like, "Okay."
Yeah. Yeah. But those are all bids. And so basically, we have the option of turning away, turning towards, turning away, or turning against. And so, what the research shows us is that in order for us to, like, for every turning away or turning against, we need 7 turning towards to to recover.
Yeah.
So basically the way I talk about it with my clients is that we're trying to fill a bank so that in case I need to make a withdrawal, right?
Mm,
And so the way
mm,
I think about it is, for example, when I'm in session, I cannot pick up my phone and I cannot text my husband back,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so if he's having a hard day and he needs to talk to me, I'm pretty much not available. We have like kind of a secret code in case it's like like a real emergency. But right,
Hmm.
like so it's not necessarily turning against, but it is a turning away, right? Like I am like not able. And so if I do not talk to him any time during the week or make any connection with him during the week, when I turn away in that kind of way, basically the story he tells himself is like she hates me, she doesn't like me, X, Y, and
Right.
Z. But
Right.
when I am putting bids of connection into the tank, he can say like obviously she doesn't have anything personal against me. She
Mm,
just maybe can't do it. Like it helps him turn to a
mm,
positive perspective, which is another one of
mm,
Gottman's terms. And
mm,
so in relationships, I think we don't realize how important these tiny, small moments are. But the research shows that like we need a lot of
mm,
them to kind of keep a balance of like
mm,
appreciation and nurturing, and positive perspective towards one another.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
so, like, the hope would be, like, in a healthy relationship, is that you are constantly meeting these bids and making bids, right?
mhm,
Like,
mhm.
and sometimes, and I get it, like, right? Sometimes I don't want to know. I don't care about what you read or the TikTok video you saw, right? Like, I just sometimes I don't have capacity for it, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
every time I turn away, like he's trying to connect with me or my friends are trying to connect with me. And every time I don't, right, it's a missed opportunity. And one
Mhm.
day I'm going to not be able to because there are other circumstances at play. And I want them to be able to know that, like I love them and I care for them and that this is not personal. But when I
Right.
don't do those things, it does become personal, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So a 7-to-1 ratio, you need to be filling that bank.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm.
Believe it or not, we're like almost at our end of our time today.
It was just such a good topic.
It's such a good topic. We might have to do a follow-up on this one. So what would you say? I'm trying to think how we should wrap this up. What are some uh like non-negotiables for you in terms of an unhealthy relationship? Like I mean everyone gets to make their own choice and free will, but would you say are some things that like you're really having serious conversations with your clients about in terms of like some red flags?
Any sort of um like instantly I would say like any mocking, right? Any mocking or belittling, anything where um there's no willingness to view your point of view as something serious. Like I know there's a playful side of things, like when we're maybe introducing a topic, but when somebody's really expressing something that hurt, even if you don't understand it, to belittle or mock is
Mm-hmm.
just is probably one that you really want to be mindful or notice.
Yeah.
Name calling.
Yes.
I know in the heat of a moment, sometimes things slip out. But if it's just constant, like if it happened once, but you didn't, there was no repair, like you said, there was no repair or effort to say things
Mm-hmm.
differently the next time. It's a continued pattern. Again, something worth paying attention to. Um, And then just like, I want to say obviously, but I do just want to be mindful. Anything where you feel physically unsafe, right? Your personal space feels too invaded. You may be asked for okay, let's just like take a beat, but you feel like one person's dominating the space.
Mm-hmm.
Again, paying attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mine very similar. Any kind of violence is a big conversation we're gonna have. I make jokes with my husband that like if he ever lays hands,
Yeah.
I'll be burying a body in the backyard. So no, I'm not gonna do
Real
that. I
though.
just not saying that. But any kind of violence, I is a serious conversation that we're gonna have. Also, kind of what I see, we chatted a little bit about this, but like something that I'm going to just bring to the forefront is when I start to see like gaslighting or
Oof. Yeah.
like a power dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where it's like you're not doing enough, you never do this, but then
Mm-hmm.
like the other partner's like not working or like you
Mm,
know what I mean? Like there's just like a power differential.
yeah, yeah.
And that can look like a thousand different ways, and gender doesn't really matter. But there's just like when there's a power differential, and then coupling that with gaslighting, that kind
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
sets
Mm-hmm.
off a flag for me.
Yeah.
Um, so I was like, that's kind of a heavier note, but I think it's important to notice and
Yeah.
talk about that in order to know what a healthy relationship is. You also have to know what some of the red flags can be,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I always tell my clients is that in relationship, like like especially if you're unsure, like you're just gathering data. Like to almost take this very almost neutral stance if you're unsure about something and just gather data. Like you don't have to make a choice right away, but like gather the data, right? Like try to look at it kind of neutrally as one can, but just knowing that like right like if there's like one thing that happens, okay, you don't have to do anything about the first time. We put this, we store it. We're not going to score keep, right? Because that's different. Like
Right.
it's not good, but I'm just gathering data like to notice a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I get more information, then I can make a more informed choice around what I need to do in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If we are like, okay, I listened to this podcast. I really want to make my relationship better. What are some resources that I can access?
Um, I would, like you said, the Gottmans. I know they have like a deck of cards, I want to
Mhm,
say. They're not the only ones. I know there's different like conversation starters, like deck of cards. I know we were joking about it today of, oh, it could be a date night, but really, like, if you feel there is space and time and willingness from both parties to say, let's just um, be curious with one another. Maybe we've been together a while and we feel like we know everything, but can we go a little bit deeper? Or you're in the beginning stages and really want to understand that person. So, that's something more light. I know we had talked about the series Couples Therapy, which I need to check out. But just from the snippets Hilda had shared earlier with me, it looked like a really good example of what a session might look like, working through things, understanding one's own um, like relationship frameworks and how that shows up within your own relationship. And then maybe meeting with a therapist,
Mhm.
a licensed therapist to work with you and your partner and, things like communication, boundaries, forgiveness, playfulness. I would say maybe those, starting with those.
Oh, absolutely. I would add on to that, understanding that like healthy relationships are something you build,
Hmm.
right? And so that it is a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
Like even 8 years later, like we're still working through things and working like it. I was trying to articulate this to someone the other day. It's relationships are hard because it's kind of like working out. Like working out is hard, and the worst part about working out for me really is that it never ends. Like I have to keep doing it, right? But
Yeah.
it's easier when I'm working on it consistently versus when I stop and I have to start up again. And I
Build the
have to,
momentum.
yeah. And so I think relationships are like that, that it is hard work, like working out, but like the more consistently you do it, it's easier than having to do it the, the opposite way.
Hmm.
I think the research shows that people start couples therapy 7 years too late,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And the research shows that, which I think this is interesting. Research shows that the third year, I think, of marriage, the seventh year, and the 11th year, if I'm not mistaken. Don't take my, I know that you're seven, right? The 7 year itch, like there's research that validates that. Those are like the hardest years of marriage for whatever reason. And so if couples are going into therapy 7 years too late, that means that the issue started that first year of marriage and wasn't
Hmm.
worked with, right? Like it wasn't dealt with. And so that
Yeah.
kind of just goes to show that it's a constant thing that you're working on. And to your point, it doesn't always have to be like these serious conversations. It can be about like one of the biggest things that helps like build passion is like having new experiences together,
Hmm.
right? And new
Hmm.
experiences can be a lot of different things.
Oh,
Trying a new
yeah.
restaurant, trying new recipes at home. Go ahead.
I'll suggest. So, something we've been doing is, because we're saving for the wedding, so it's not like we can go travel or we can go do a bunch of things. But we signed up for, and there might be one in Dallas. I know there's one in Austin, but here's the Do 210. I think there might be a Do 214 up there, and it's like a membership. And so for like $10 a month, I think it sends you opportunities for different things in the community. And we've done things we would have never like done otherwise. We went to a Wheel of Fortune live at the Majestic Theater for just like $10, and we were pretty upfront. And it was we were like probably the youngest people there, but it was so funny, so fun. And then this past weekend, we went to a Broadway show called The Choir of Men at the Tobin Center. And again, like, what are we doing here? But it was so fun.
My
Um, Before the
gosh.
show, they had a fully functional bar on the stage, and everybody got to go out for a free like thing of beer. And again, things that you just can be out of the box, and still have fun with your partner, and it doesn't have to be anything, right? Like you're investing all these resources into it. It's just willingness to try
Right.
something different.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. I just saw
Mhm.
another something similar called Do More Things, I think it's called. And it's like a similar
Mm-hmm.
kind of model. So now that I've heard you doing it, I'm gonna sign us up. because we love that kind of stuff. And I think even on that stuff, some of the things that we've done, especially when we were less financially stable, is like the Dollar Tree has so much good stuff. And so we'll like pick up some canvases and some paint. We did the paint each other challenge.
Yeah.
That was really fun. We were laughing so hard.
Oh.
I just picked up so for every holiday I love to have a craft. And so like you
Mm.
go into the Target dollar section and they have all kinds of stuff and it's
Like
not
kids.
yeah, like
Hmm.
little kits, like even some of the kids kits like
Yeah.
I try not to get things that are too big because I don't want to store any more stuff, but
Yeah.
like we've done
Yeah.
like the gemstone things. We
Hmm.
have some air
Hmm.
clay that we have at the house we'll do in a couple weeks. Um, so it doesn't always have to be like the kind of the going out. I think that
Yeah.
that do two was 210 and I'm
Yeah.
gonna look for the 214 is a great option, but even like trying a new movie, like
Hmm.
all that counts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we are so glad you joined us today. This was such a good conversation. We might have to do a second part to this because I think there's like so much we didn't even touch on.
Okay.
But if you are in need of mental health services, whether individually or as a couple or as a family, we do have openings. You can visit our website, cannentacenter.com, and give us a call, and one of our client engagement folks can help get you connected. Elizabeth still has some space.
Yes, I
Um,
do. I do
yeah,
have
I
space for
actually
in-person and virtual.
perfect. And you see mainly individuals.
I see mainly individuals, but also open to couples,
Okay.
couples and families.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, so Halifax is available. Um, And and I also want to just name, we didn't talk about this today. I just want to name that, not having a partner can also be really difficult and it can be helpful
Hmm.
to just help someone help navigate that with you. And you'd be
Um,
surprised by sometimes how much therapy is about like relationship coaching or like
mhm,
single coaching to help folks feel a little bit more confident or build on
mhm,
self-esteem because like Elizabeth mentioned, it's so important to have like such a sense of self, not that you
mhm,
won't grow in a relationship, you will, but that you know where your container ends before you include someone else into the mix.
mhm,
So check
mhm.
us out there. And if you need low cost services, check out Cannenta Foundation, where we have Project Ayuda for to have low and reduced cost sessions. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you at the next one.